rosette is going to be 2 widths of this black, white, black dyed fiber strip. This bit is sized specifically to very closely match the width that we need for these 2 pieces.
Okay.
Okay. After we route this out, this will either just barely pop right in,
or
we'll have to kiss the edge.
Yeah.
So the idea is to have it sized either dead on or slightly smaller, because there's some variability, which is mostly with the pieces themselves, right? That's where you get your variability. Yeah. Also, sometimes the bit, it develops pitch on the sides of the flutes, and that can actually over time affect how the channel is. So you're always dealing with variability somewhere. So the way this works is we loosen this and turn this little dial, and that's going to get us to the radius that we need. Here we're not actually going to set the depth stop for the ultimate depth that we want, because with thin inlays like this, I actually don't like to set a depth stop when you're doing something very shallow. It's easier and better, in my opinion, to just do a couple passes and check it, and then once it's good, it's good. Okay. And what good is, because this is just an inlay, it doesn't have to be a precise depth either. It just has to be embedded deep enough that we're not worried about, say, sanding through it through subsequent steps.
Okay.
So that's why we're just going to do some passes, check it, and once this is about 3/4 embedded, so we'll have a little bit sitting proud.
Yeah. But
the majority of its height will be embedded. Then we'll install it and glue it in.
Okay.
What we're going to do is I have this feeler gauge here, 12/1000 of an inch feeler gauge, and we're going to use this, bring that down flush with our surface. That's our starting point. We're going to use this to set our depth, not our overall depth, because like I said, we're not doing that, just our depth of a single pass. So that's our increment there. And so we trap this feeler gauge under the depth stop there and then pull it out, and then we can do a pass and it will only go down by that amount. We'll do a pass, check it, do another pass, check it. Really, that first pass for sure won't be deep enough, so probably won't even check it. We'll do that first pass, do about maybe 3 passes, then we'll start checking it. It should only take 3, 4, maybe 5 passes. And I'm just going to demonstrate a pass here. So pay attention to what I'm doing with my hands, and then after I do the pass, I'm going to explain what I was doing with my hands. But for now, just pay attention to it. So we're going to start off the wood. We never want to start the bit while it's in contact with the wood. Plunge down, lock it. All right, so what I wanted you to notice about the way I was handling that is after I plunge down, and then I bring my hands down one at a time, because I don't want to just let go of this completely, ever. So one hand comes down, then the other, and what I'm doing is I always have a part of my hand on either side of this pin at any given point. So if you watch what I'm doing right here, even with just this one hand, I'm satisfying that requirement.
Okay.
See? Thumb is there, finger is there.
Yeah.
But at some point, I'd have to crawl up on the table to maintain this, right? I just can't go any further. So this hand comes in and relieves this, right?
Yeah.
So still satisfying the requirement. Wait for the power down. By the way, the reason we start and stop in the same spot up here at the top is because the fretboard tongue is actually going to cover this area.
Okay.
So you always want to know where that blind spot is.
Yeah.
So that you can put all your error there. So if there's ever anything that's going to happen to the channel that'll make it a little less than perfect, it's when you're plunging down or when you're stopping the bit at the end. That's when you can get some jostling and have an inconsistent channel. So we just put all that, in that under the fretboard area.
Okay.
Plus, when we actually install this, we're not going to install it so that it perfectly makes a perfect joint at the top. We're just going to leave a nice big gap there.
Okay.
And then, like I mentioned before, we're just going to cut this with a pretty large gap because the fretboard tongue covers a lot.
Yeah.
Now, this might seem like it's perfect to you, and it might be, actually. Or we might need to add just a little bit more. And that's because we actually don't want a perfect just creaks in fit, because we're going to be using Titebond to glue this in.
Okay.
If you weren't using Titebond, like say you were using cyanoacrylate glue, which is super glue, then we would be fine with an extremely tight fit. But on a spruce top, you can't really use super glue. I mean, sometimes you can get away with it, but there's a very high chance that it's going to stain deeply into the spruce, often to the point where you can't even sand it out. Like, it's all the way through, essentially. And so you'll end up with this sort of grayish looking top in those areas. So we definitely don't want that. So we're going to use Titebond instead. The only issue with Titebond is because it's water-based, it actually swells the wood fibers when you put it in the channel. So if this was a perfect fit, like it is right now, then once we add the glue, you will end up in a very unfortunate situation where the channel closes up just slightly, and then you've got the glue in there, you go to fit your piece again, and suddenly it doesn't fit, and you're panicking.
Yeah.
Yeah, for good reason, panicking.
Yeah.
So what I always do is give it the wiggle test. It's very simple. It's just, can I wiggle this? And essentially, if you look at it when I wiggle, you should be able to see those white lines. It's usually easiest if you just look at those white lines that are sandwiched in between. I should be able to see them kind of dance back and forth, right? So go ahead and wiggle that, and you'll actually just see that it's actually very firm.
Right.
I don't see the lines dancing.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is just do another pass where we just kiss that edge to give it that tiny amount of extra room. And then in the end, that doesn't mean it's going to be like a mismatched channel with a little bit of gaps in it. Because of that swelling effect, this will actually become a perfect tight fit.
Okay.
All right, so now we can glue it. And I like to have everything set up and ready to go. We have our two pieces, and they're in the correct order right next to us. Because even though we created that little bit of extra space, I still like to do it in a reasonable amount of time. I like to move fairly quickly and not just let the glue sit in there for a long time. We're also going to have just a little scrap here from what we cut off earlier, and you're going to see what we do with that. So we're going to run the glue in there. And so with this, we're just using this to push it up against the side walls. And that's all it really takes right there. And then this can go in just like before. Again, you want to work with a little bit of urgency, just so it doesn't close up on you. And there we go, we're in.
Awesome.
So this is the cooking portion of the class. But really, I've found that I had this cast iron pan lying around, and it just so happens that the ring of this pan lines up perfectly with where this rosette is. So it just makes a convenient weight.
Cool.
And just to give it a little more weight, this giant, I don't even know what that is, just a weight. This big weight here kind of holds it all in. And that's it. All right, and so with the rosette installed and the kerfing installed, now William has moved on to carving the back braces. And I think that's enough for one video here. William is going to finish this up. He's going to profile the braces, We're going to cut notches into the kerfing. He's going to fit those braces into them. We're going to close, or not close, we're going to attach the back and then turn our attention to the soundboard braces. If you learned something here, please give this video a like and subscribe so you can be notified when I release a new DIY guitar making video. And if you want to really learn more, take one of my structured online courses at ericschaeferguitars.com or register for a hands-on guitar building workshop here with me in Burnville, Pennsylvania.